good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are all around the world. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you 7 qualities of top performing students. 7 qualities of top performing students. I've been a student and now I am a teacher, and there are some qualities that I have observed that are prevalent among students who are performing very well in class. Okay, so I've been a teacher for over 10 years, and these qualities, I have observed these qualities over and over and over again among the best students that I've taught. And some of these qualities that I observe, I've seen students who practice these things move from behind in the class to top of the class. So by practicing some of these qualities that I'm going to be sharing in today's live session, many students have moved from struggling students to high performing students. And I know that if you can practice a few of these principles, you are going to see a lot of difference in your academic performance. Okay. So let's look at these 7 qualities of top performing students. The first quality is self-belief. Self-belief. You see, the best thing you can do for yourself is to believe in your ability, right? So many students that I've seen who are struggling either in mathematics or in any other subject or struggling generally, one thing I observe with them is they lack confidence in themselves. Okay, so most times when I have a one-on-one tutoring session with a student, or when I'm teaching in my day job, the first thing I look out for is the confidence of the student. Is the student confident in his or her ability, or does the student have self-doubt? So if I observe that the student has self-doubt, then that will be the first thing I'm going to focus on. So my focus will not go to teaching them mathematics first, though I'll be teaching mathematics, but I'll try to ensure that I build the confidence of the student. And how do I build the confidence of the student? In mathematics, as an example, I first try to go back to the basic topics in mathematics. See, one of the things that makes students not to be confident in their ability is they are struggling at a particular level, most likely because they don't have the right foundation at the basic level. Okay, they don't have the right foundation at the basic level, so they are struggling at the higher levels. So what I do with students who are struggling is I take them back to simpler topics, and as they learn those simple topics and see how simple they are, they'll begin to say, wow, this thing was not as difficult as I thought it was. And when they begin to understand those easier topics, what happens is when you take them back to the ones that they were struggling with before, you see that they just begin to excel uh, without too much stress, right? So if you are struggling with any subject, if you lack self-confidence in any particular subject, the first thing you need to do is go back to the basics. Okay, go back to the basics of that particular subject and see how to solidify those basic topics. Okay, so one characteristics of students who are high performers is they are self-confident. And how one other way to become self-confident is becoming self-aware, right? Some students don't know themselves. They know their classmate who is doing well. They know other students in their class, but they don't know themselves. Now, how do you know yourself? You know yourself by practice. Some students, even before they start studying, they believe they will not understand. So you need to begin to speak to yourself, telling yourself that this thing is easy. Sometimes I normally tell my students to write in their notebook, I can be the best. I can be the best. I can be the best. mathematics is easy. So I tell them to repeat it to themselves, repeat it to themselves, repeat it to themselves again and again, so that they will begin to hear themselves say that mathematics is easy. As I said earlier, then I give them easy things to solve. So when they begin to solve those easy things, they begin to have that confidence in themselves. Okay. The second quality of top performing students is goal oriented. Top performing students are goal oriented. That means they set goals for themselves. So without a goal, just imagine some men are playing a particular sport, let's say football, and you just remove the goal. You remove the goalpost. Once you remove the goalpost, the sports game become meaningless. Without a goal, then every activity becomes meaningless. So top performing students at the beginning of the semester, at the beginning of the term, they set goals for themselves, both short-term goals and long-term goals. So they have a target for what they want to achieve at the end of the semester, and they have a target for what they are going to be achieving each week in order to achieve their final target. So what are you doing daily? Because your daily agendas, your daily habits determines your destination. So set short-term goals that contains your daily habits, your daily activities. Okay, I'm going to study this number of pages every day, or I'm going to study at least one subject every day. That is a daily goal, right? Excuse me. That is a daily goal. I'm going to study one subject every day, and then you go ahead to start studying. That becomes your daily goal. And then the next goal is at the end of the semester, I am going to be in this position in my class, or I'm going to get this average in all the subjects. So you set goals. The goals you set should not be in your head. The goals you set should be written down. You write them down. This is what I want to do at the end of the semester. This is what I want to achieve at the end of the semester. So you write those goals down. Okay. Now, these goals should be specific goals, not random goals. Not, I'm going to do well this semester. No, it should be specific goals written down. I'm going to have this GPA at the end of this semester. That is specific. I'm going to attend all the lectures for this semester. That is a specific goal. I'm going to do all my homework, all my assignments for this semester. That is a specific goal. So whenever you don't have a specific goal that you can observe to see if you are measuring up to, then you have not really set a goal. Okay. And then your goal should also be measurable. So if you set a daily goal, can you look back at the end of the day and say, I have achieved my goal? If you write, I'm going to read every day, you might just read for 5 minutes and you can tick that you read for that day. But if you say, I'm going to read for 2 hours every day, then the day you don't read for up to 2 hours, you know that you did not achieve that goal. So your goals should be measurable. Your goals should be specific. Okay, your goals should be written down as a student. Okay, as a student, the top performing students have a goal written down somewhere at the beginning of the semester. So when they come to class, they are working based on their predetermined goal. So every of their activities throughout the semester is targeted towards achieving that goal. But when you don't have any goal, anything can just get your attention. So if there is something that people are doing and then you check that it does not line up with your goal, you can simply say, no, I can't do this. Why can't you do it? Because it doesn't line up with my goal. So you have to set goals. Top performing students always set goals for themselves at the beginning of the semester. The next one is discipline, self-discipline. You see, without discipline, the goals you've set are useless. Okay, so it takes discipline to continue when you've set a goal, because although you set a goal and you started moving with that, there is this excitement when you start on a journey, but when you begin to face difficulties as you go along on the journey, you might want to quit. Not, you don't feel like studying every day as a student. Okay, it's just like going to the gym. Even those that are athletes, they don't feel like going to the gym every day. But because they have a goal, they back it up with discipline. Discipline is simply doing what you are supposed to do, whether you feel like doing it or not. That's discipline. So if you want to be a high performing student, then apart from just setting goals, you must also be disciplined to ensure that anything that will hinder you or stop you from achieving those goals, you just push it aside. Okay, so that's the third thing that is consistent with top performing students. They are disciplined. They know what they want to do and they continue on that path, whether they feel like doing it on a particular day or not. So that's discipline. The next thing, it boils down from discipline. That's consistent study schedule. High performing students have a consistent study schedule. And for you to have a consistent study schedule, you must you must check out the best time that you have to study. Okay, some people, apart from just studying, they have different activities that they have to be involved in. So you have to put all these things into consideration when fixing your study time. Okay, so having a consistent study schedule is based on the time of study and the location of study. I give an example for myself in terms of location of study. When I was in school, I didn't like going to study in the library because the libraries are so quiet. If I go to study in the library, I normally sleep off. So I tried it a few times. So before you know the consistent schedule for yourself, you have to first try different things. So I tried studying at the library. I tried studying at home in my room, and I discovered that those places were not the best for me, right? So I found out that I was I was more alert when studying in the classroom. So there might be people in the classroom discussing and just doing all the activities, but I'll be at the back of the class just studying behind. So I discovered that I was more alert when I was hearing people talking around me. So I stay in such environment and I study. So when I observed that that was the best place for me, I made that place my study place, right? Also, the time of study. People study at different times, or people are more productive at different times of the day. So you might be more productive or you might be more effective when you're studying in the early hours of the morning, let's say 4 a.m. to 6 a.m. Some persons are better with that, right? Some persons are better studying during the day, study a little, a little, a little, a little. Some people are okay with that. And some people prefer to study in the evening. Some people prefer to study in the midnight. So different people have different days that they are most effective when studying. So for you to know the best time that you can study is you study at different times of the day and you check your level of retention at those times of the day. So the time of the day that you find out that you were able to retain more, or you had better, it was easier for you to study, then you take note of that time as the best time for you to study. So once you've known the best time for you to study, then you plan your schedule around that particular time. Okay? So a consistent study schedule involves the time of study and the location of study. So once you've gotten the location right and you've gotten the time right, then you should make that a consistent schedule. So every day I'm going to study at 4 p.m. I'm going to study every day at this location from 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. And then you plan your entire activities of the day around that schedule. So high performing students have a consistent study schedule. Okay. So top performing students have a consistent study schedule. Another quality of high performing students or top performing students is curiosity. Curiosity. Many students just study for studying sake. Okay, they just study because we are supposed to study and write exams, but that's not the way top performing students do. Top performing students study because they want to know. They want to know, why is this like this? Why is this like that? So they are not studying because they are preparing for an exam. If you are studying because you are preparing for an exam, then you will only study a few days or a few weeks before the exam. But top performing students who are so curious to know, they study throughout the semester. They ask questions in class. They interact with other people that they know already have the knowledge that they are seeking. Okay, so top performing students are curious. They read beyond what was taught in the class. But if you are not curious as a student, wherever the teacher stops, that's where you're going to stop. So you cannot go beyond what the teacher said. And you cannot learn everything you need to learn as a student in the class. There are some things that might be in your textbook that might not be said in the class. When I was in secondary school, I was always wondering why my teacher was not always able to finish the entire textbook. I have never been to any class where the teacher completed the entire textbook. The reason is no teacher can teach you everything. So there are always there is always, you have to go an extra mile to know, right? So it is only the curious students that will go beyond what was taught in class. And most times you need to go beyond what was taught in class in order to fully understand what was taught in class. Let me say that again. Sometimes you need to go beyond what was taught in class in order to fully understand what was taught in class. So the full details, the full understanding of what you were taught in class might only come to you when you go beyond what was taught in class. Okay, so the only people who can do that. Okay, what time according to you is the best time for study? Okay, as I said, thank you for the question, Sadia. As I said, there is no best time for everybody, right? From my observation, there's no best time for everybody. For me, the best time for me to study is early hours of the morning. That's for me. But how did I get to know that that was the best time for me to study? I studied at different points of the day. But I observed that those things that I studied early hours of the day, I could remember them even months after I studied them, right? But there are some things that I studied probably during the afternoons while I was doing other things, probably maybe when I was done with some other work, I just opened my book and I studied. I discovered that I forgot everything. But when I wake up early in the morning and I study, I got more. But I cannot say that that is applicable to everybody. The only way to know what is applicable to you is when you do it yourself. Try different times of the day. Try out different times of the day. So when you try out different times of the day, then because you are curious to know about yourself, you will now be able to spot the particular time that is best for you. So you are going to test two things that will help you to know the particular time. You test your retention, what you're able to retain at the end of the study. You test the ease with which you studied. Sometimes you might be feeling sleepy and you keep struggling to concentrate. That means that might not be the best time for you. But there are sometimes you might just study for a full hour easily. So it means that that might be the best time for you. So you study the ease at which you are studying and the amount of retention. Okay, so these are two parameters that will help you to know the best time for you. So we're talking about curiosity. So curiosity is very important. You need to be interested in learning to know, not learning to pass the exam alone. If you're studying to pass an exam, you will observe that at the end of the exam, a month after the exam, if they give you those same questions, you will not be able to write them. You would have forgotten everything. You'll be asking yourself, am I the one that wrote these exams? Wow. Because you were studying to write the exam. So once you wrote the exam, the reason for the study has been achieved. Therefore, your brain starts deleting the information. Okay. But when you study to know, then you begin to see the importance even in your daily activities. Just as a maths teacher, many students ask me, what is the benefit of learning mathematics? Those questions are coming from students who are studying to pass exams. But when a student is studying mathematics or solving questions in mathematics, curiously, you begin to ask yourself, how does this apply to real life situations? When you begin to ask yourself, you've not started asking others, when you begin to ask yourself, then you by yourself begin to see, oh, solving area of a rectangle can be used when somebody wants to buy a plot of land. Okay, they need to measure it, they need to know the size of the land. Okay, that's area. Wow. Profit and loss. Profit and loss can be applied in business. So you are studying to know, not studying to pass an exam. So students who study to know, or students who are curious, begin to see the real life applications of what they are studying. And once they begin to match what they are studying or what they are learning in school with real life applications, then it is very difficult to forget those concepts. Okay, so top performing students are curious. Number six quality of top performing students. They make friends strategically. They make friends strategically. They don't make friends randomly. If you observe the best performing students in your class, you will discover that if you observe the friends they have, discover that they make friends strategically. Birds of a feather flock together, right? You cannot see an eagle moving with a duck. So you see the top performing students coming together strategically to achieve academic goals. These students understand that having an unserious friend will drag you down, will bring you down. So whenever they get into a new class, okay, I normally ask my students, I say, well, when you get into a new class, I don't know how it happens in other countries, but where in my country, when you get into a new class, most times the teacher does not tell the students where to sit. If it happens like that, most times the teacher does not say, okay, you go sit there, but you're going to observe something. All the high performing students will sit at the front naturally, and all the noise making and students that make noise and do some kind of bad stuff, they find themselves at the back naturally. It just happens. So high performing students are strategic in the friends they keep, because they understand that when you have an excellent friend, when you have a friend that is doing well, and both of you are competing, it affects your performance. I'll give an example. Some years ago, when I was still in secondary school, I had a very intelligent friend. You know, some parents will say they were the best students in class. I don't say that. Okay, I tell the truth, right? So I had this friend when I got into this particular new school. I had this friend who was the best male student in the class. There was a female student who was the best in the class entirely, but this friend I make was the best male student in the class. We were seatmates. And he was so good. I was trying to beat him. I did better than him in a few subjects, but generally I never beat him any day. He was better than me generally. But because I was friends with him and I was trying to beat him, I was performing very well. Then one day we had a disagreement and we are no longer friends. And then I became friends with two boys in my class. I was not friends with them before, but when I was no longer friends with this particular boy who was the best student in the class, I became friends with these other two boys. And something happened. I was doing way better than them. So when I became friends with these two boys, my performance dropped and something happened to them. Their performance increased. If I was here and they were here, while I was coming down, they were coming up, and we met at a particular point. So the friends you keep influences your performance. While students that are struggling in school do not take this importantly, the high performing students are strategic. So when they get into a new class, they are always looking out for the serious people and they go make friends with them. There must be, in friendship, there must be something, there must be a bond that brings the friends together. And for students, the only bond that should bring you guys together is education. So the high performing students know this, but the unserious students make friends with whoever comes their way. It is said that you are the average of the 5 friends you keep. So if you want to know, this is applicable anywhere, not just in academics, not just in the school, not just in the class, anywhere in life. You are the average of the 5 friends that you keep. So if you want to know where you're going, you just look at the friends you keep. So if you as a student want to be a top performing student, even if you are not at this point, then you should start gravitating towards the high performing student. You begin to ask yourself, where are the best students going? Where do they sit? What do they do? Once you begin to do what they do, begin to sit where they sit, begin to go to where they go to, then gradually you begin to go into their circle, and it wouldn't be as difficult for you to start performing better, because it's just like someone who sat in a room where people are smoking. He doesn't have to smoke. The environment is going to influence him or her. So the same thing applies to you as a student. When you observe that you are not performing as good as you want to perform and you want to move from the back to the front, one of the most effective things, apart from the ones we've talked about, is changing the friends you have. Because when you change the friends you have and you begin to stay around them and you begin to interact with their self-belief, it's going to affect your self-belief. The friends you keep will affect your self-belief, which was the first thing we talked about. The first friends you keep will affect your goal-setting ability, because you see them always trying to set goals. It will help you to start setting goals. The friends you keep will impact your consistent study habits. It will impact your discipline, because they will ask you, what did you do yesterday? Did you study this? And you don't want to always tell them that you were not able to do it. So because you don't want to always disappoint them or feel left out, then you want to do something so that when they ask you, did you do this? You say, yeah, I did it. So that is the positive effect of peer pressure. Peer pressure is not bad. It's neither bad nor good. Peer pressure can be both positive and negative. If you are moving around with the right circle, then peer pressure will be positive for you. If you are moving around with the wrong circle, peer pressure will be negative for you. Okay, so we've looked at 6 qualities of high performing students. So the last quality of high performing students is high performing students approach life with a growth mindset. High-performing students approach their academics with a growth mindset. What is the difference between a growth mindset and a stagnant mindset? A growth mindset, if someone that has a growth mindset is not afraid of failing, he doesn't see failure as a person. He is not defined by failure. She is not defined by failure. She sees failure as a step towards success. So many students, you ask question as a teacher, I'll ask some students question in the class, and they might not answer even when they know what to say, because they are not sure the reaction of their friends. They don't want people to laugh at them in case they get the answer wrong. But a student who has a growth mindset, if you call the person up to come and solve a particular question on the board, you see the excitement, you see the confidence. Even when they fail, you see them laughing. Not laughing foolishly, but laughing because they were happy that they made an attempt. Okay, so high performing students, top performing students have a growth mindset. They also, a growth mindset tells you that you cannot be at the same level from year to year, right? So a growth mindset tells you that you cannot become stagnant. No matter your performance right now, there's still room for improvement. I remember back in primary school, then I used to come out first in class. In my country, they normally give report cards and they will write your position based on your performance. The student comes out first, second, third, fourth, until the last position. So I used to wonder, sometimes I will come out first in the class as the best student in the class, but the teacher will still write, there is still room for improvement. There is still room for improvement. That is the growth mindset. So don't believe that because you were at this level, then you should remain at that level. Think of going higher. Think of going higher. Think of going higher. That's the growth mindset. So when you see top performing students in class, they don't celebrate yesterday's success. They celebrate it momentarily, and then they keep moving. They keep moving. They keep moving. That is how to be a top performing student, because the top performing students are always targets. So every other person wants to beat them. So because other students want to beat them, they must keep moving. They must keep advancing. That is how we should do it. Okay. So in today's live session, we've looked at 7 qualities of top performing students. So before we end the live session, I'm just going to go through the 7 qualities that I've talked about today. The first quality of top performing student is self-belief. You cannot be successful as a student if you don't believe in yourself. Some students believe in their classmates. Some students believe in their teacher, but they don't believe in themselves. So how do you believe in yourself? How do you start believing in yourself? You begin to tell yourself, you can, I can, I can. Even when you are not exhibiting it right now, but speak to yourself. Tell yourself you can. And when you tell yourself you can, tell yourself you will do what it takes to become. I can, and I will do what it takes to become. Okay? The second quality is goal-oriented. Top performing students set goals for themselves, what they want to achieve weekly, monthly, and at the end of the semester. Number 3, top performing students have a consistent study schedule. And number 4, top performing students are disciplined. They have self-discipline. The reason is not every day will be sunshine. You don't feel like doing what you ought to do every day. Some days you feel like not doing anything. Okay. So, but once you have that discipline, you keep doing what you are supposed to do, whether you feel like it or not. Right. And then number 5, is curiosity. You have to be curious. You always have to. One of the qualities that children have when they are very little is curiosity. That's why when you tell a child something, the child will ask you why, why, why. Two questions children normally ask is why, and the second one is not a question, actually it's a statement. No. The reason they are saying no is because you haven't convinced them. No means convince me, convince me. So as we grow older, that quality of curiosity, many people lose it. So, but if you want to be a top performing student, you have to become curious. Not just studying to pass an exam, but studying to know, to understand, and possibly apply. Okay. And then number 6 is strategic friendship. High performing students make friends strategically, not randomly. Okay. And then the final one, growth mindset. Top performing students know that there is always a new height to get to. There's always a new mountain to conquer academically. Okay. So these are the 7 qualities of top performing students. I believe that if you go over this lesson again, go over this video lesson again, and apply these 7 qualities to your life, integrate it into your daily habits and agenda, you'll begin to experience better performance as a student. Thank you so much for being here up to this point. Remember, my name is Charles Agbani. This is Agbani Maths Academy, but this video lessons is going beyond mathematics. We are going beyond mathematics to make you understand what it takes to be a successful student, and not just successful student. As we go along in this series, I'm going to share with you guys what the school needs to teach you, but you don't learn as a student. So thank you so much for being here up to this point. It's more than half an hour, and I'm so grateful for as many who were able to watch up to this point, those that joined along the way, and those that will watch even after now. Thank you for being here. Hope to see you in the next episode. So if you go to the playlist, you're going to see a playlist on going beyond mathematics, going beyond mathematics. So all the lessons that I'm going to be sharing that are not really related to mathematics, I'm going to be putting them there on that playlist, going beyond mathematics. Thank you for being here. See you in the next one. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.